Hi everyone, welcome to Mastering Fantasy Design with Poser and Illustrator. My name is Nastasia Peters, although most people just call me Nas. As the title explains, I'll be showing you tips and tricks to create a fantasy scene using Poser and Illustrator. Before we start though, let me tell you a bit about myself. I have been illustrating officially for 14 years now, but I've been told my finger paintings were pretty impressive from when I was a tiny kid. I started out traditional, but quickly changed to digital and instantly fell in love with vector. Over the years, I've done quite a bit of freelance work, and for the past couple of months, I have been writing tutorials for Vector Tuts Plus. My work was also featured in Sharon Milne's Adobe Masterclass Illustrator, for which I also wrote a tutorial. Ever since I was a kid, I would come up with creatures and their stories behind them, what they would wear, the weapon designs. So when I figured out I could draw, not splendidly at the time, but well enough to translate approximately what I saw in my mind, I started practicing this skill constantly and of course still am today. In this course, I will be sharing the things I have learned over the last couple of years with you, and I hope you'll come out of it with a tip or trick that you'll be able to use and apply in your own creative works. The reason we will be using Illustrator is in hopes to show you that Vector has very little limits and that you can use Illustrator in so many ways. It is often used to create clean-cut illustrations as Vector has that aspect. In this course, we are going to paint with Vector. You don't need to know Illustrator by heart to be able to follow the steps we will be going through in this course, but a basic knowledge on the tools will make it easier to understand. The reason we will be using Poser to create our reference with is because anatomy and perspective can be very tricky. I used to work with stock photography a lot, and while I still sometimes do and find it a great tool to use in the creative process, I found there were quite a bit of limitations as well. You can't always find the right pose, or if you do, you can't always find it in the perspective you want it in. I found that I was often settling for something close to what I wanted rather than finding the stock image exactly as I needed it. Poser allows you to create the exact reference you want. I will be taking you through the techniques I apply in this illustration as well as some theory. We will be starting out with a rough concept sketch. It doesn't look that cool, I know, but it's not supposed to. We'll then focus on some character design before moving on to Poser. I will give an introduction to the tools we will be using in Poser and then use these to show you how to customize 3D models available in the program's library and then apply poses on them. You won't necessarily need Photoshop, but I will be using it to create the sketch on top of the Poser reference before moving on to Illustrator. In Illustrator, I will take you through the stages of line art, adding base colors, creating color holds, and then shading and highlighting in a vector painted effect. I have made the reference file, the sketch, and the line art file available if you are wanting to try the techniques explained through this course out on the same drawing. If you want to start from beginning to end, grab the reference file or sketch, or if you'd rather color, start with the line art file. And of course, feel free to make your own fantasy illustration. You can even create an illustration that is not fantasy related at all, and only look at the techniques used in this course rather than the concept subject. In the next video, we will be creating the rough concept sketch that will serve as a base before creating the reference. Let's get started.